It was past midnight when the city lights began to fade into the misty drizzle, and a man in a tailored black suit sat alone in the back seat of a limousine that smelled faintly of whiskey and rain. His name was Ethan Blake, one of New York's most powerful CEOs, a man whose signature could move millions, whose empire glittered across skylines, and whose heart had turned into something colder than the steel buildings he owned. But tonight, for the first time in years, his eyes weren't on a contract or a glowing screen. They were on the empty seat across from him. The seat where, once upon a time, his wife used to sit before she walked away forever, taking with her the light that once lived in his world. The rain tapped against the tinted glass like gentle knocks from the past. Ethan leaned his head back, eyes closed, wondering if loneliness could choke a person. That's when he heard it, a soft knock on the limo's window. His driver turned, startled. Through the blur of rain, a tiny hand pressed against the glass. A little girl, drenched and shivering, her big brown eyes wide with innocence and desperation. She couldn't have been more than 6. Before Ethan could react, the driver opened the door slightly, worried she might get hurt standing in the street. And that's when she looked up at Ethan and whispered, her voice trembling but pure, "You need a wife, and I need a dad." If this opening touched your heart already, take a deep breath, hit the like button, and subscribe to StoryNest, because sometimes, kindness and second chances are all we need to believe in miracles again. Don't forget to share this story with someone who still believes in the power of love. For a moment, Ethan thought he was hallucinating. Maybe it was the whiskey, maybe it was exhaustion, but the child's eyes told a story his heart couldn't ignore. Her small face was pale, her shoes soaked, her clothes clinging to her trembling body. Without thinking, he told the driver to let her in. She climbed onto the soft leather seat, her tiny hands clutching a worn teddy bear whose fur had turned gray from time. Ethan stared at her, lost for words. She didn't look afraid, only heartbreakingly hopeful. When he asked her where her parents were, she whispered, "Mommy went to heaven last week." Her voice cracked as she tried to stay strong. "Anne, I don't know where Daddy is. Mommy said he's somewhere in this big city." The way she said it, softly, like it was a secret she didn't want to believe, broke something deep inside Ethan. He told the driver to take them to the nearest diner. At the small, old-fashioned diner that still smelled of coffee and pancakes, Ethan sat across from her, watching as she devoured a plate of waffles with the hunger of someone who hadn't eaten properly in days. Between bites, she kept glancing up at him, studying his face. When he asked her name, she said, "Lila." Just Lila. He didn't push for more. Something about her, the way she carried the teddy bear, the way she spoke with quiet bravery, pulled him in, awakening something long buried inside him. Over the next hour, Ethan learned that her mother, a nurse named Clara, had passed away after a long illness. Lila had no relatives nearby. She had run away from the foster home she was sent to because, in her little heart, she believed she could find her dad, the man her mother said once loved them both but left when times got hard. Mommy said Daddy wasn't bad, she told him, her voice small. He just got lost trying to be better. Ethan's throat tightened. Those words echoed painfully inside him. Because he, too, had once been a man who got lost trying to be better. That night, instead of dropping her off at a shelter, Ethan brought Lila to his penthouse. It was vast, cold, and silent, like a museum of wealth and regret. Lila's tiny footsteps echoed across marble floors as she wandered, looking at everything with wonder. When she saw the empty grand piano in the corner, she said softly, "It looks lonely." And somehow, Ethan didn't laugh. Because she was right, it was lonely. Everything in his life was. Over the next few days, something strange began to happen. Lila filled his sterile world with laughter. She talked to the maids, left drawings on his desk, and even convinced his robotic assistant to play music in the mornings. She would follow him to his office, pretending to be his little secretary, scribbling notes in a tiny notepad. The people at his company were stunned to see the cold, unreachable CEO smiling again, even if it was just faintly. But deep down, Ethan knew this couldn't last. Lila wasn't his. He told himself he was just helping her until the authorities could find her real father. Yet every night, when she fell asleep clutching her teddy bear beside the fireplace, he felt something change inside him, a warmth he hadn't felt since losing his wife and unborn child years ago in a car accident. The memory that once destroyed him now collided with the innocence sitting before him, forcing his heart to beat again. Then, one afternoon, as he came home early from work, Ethan found Lila sitting on the floor of his study, surrounded by papers and an open laptop. She had drawn something, a picture of him, her, and a woman. "That's Mommy," she said proudly. "I think she'd like you. You look sad like she used to, but I think you can smile again if you try." Her words hit him harder than any boardroom battle ever could. That night, as he tucked her into bed, she looked up at him and whispered, "Mr. Ethan, do you think Daddy will still want me?" He couldn't answer. Because in that moment, he realized something terrifying: he wanted to be that dad. The following week, the authorities tracked down Lila's real father. He lived just 2 hours away, a struggling mechanic named Daniel who had spiraled into addiction after losing his wife. He had been trying to get his life back together but hadn't yet reached out for fear he wasn't ready. Ethan arranged to meet him privately, and when Daniel came into his office, nervous, ashamed, broken, Ethan saw the reflection of a man who'd once been him. Instead of judging him, Ethan offered him a deal: get clean, rebuild his life, and take care of Lila the way she deserved. He even arranged a job at one of his company's auto subsidiaries. When the day came for Lila to see her real dad, she clung to Ethan's leg, tears in her eyes. "Can't I stay with you too?" she whispered. Ethan knelt down, his voice soft but firm. "You'll always have a place in my heart, Lila. But your daddy needs you now, more than I do." She kissed his cheek and handed him her teddy bear. "So you won't be lonely anymore," she said. He promised to keep it safe forever. Months passed. Ethan continued his work, but something fundamental had changed. The laughter that once echoed through his penthouse now lived in his memory. He started a foundation for children like Lila, kids lost in the system, searching for home. His company's slogan changed that year: "Success means nothing without someone to share it with." One day, as he was leaving his office, he heard a familiar voice. "Mr. Ethan." Lila came running across the lobby, taller now, her hair tied in a ponytail, her father walking proudly beside her. She hugged him tightly and whispered, "Daddy says thank you for giving him a second chance." Ethan smiled, unable to speak. That night, he sat in his limo again, holding the same teddy bear she'd left him. For the first time in years, he smiled, not the kind that fades when the lights go out, but the kind that comes from peace. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, comment, and share this video. Subscribe to StoryNest for more stories that remind us that even in the darkest nights, a single act of kindness can rewrite destinies. Before the story ends, tell me in the comments, what do you believe heals a lonely heart faster, time or love? And as the limo drove past the city lights, Ethan looked out the window, whispering softly to himself, maybe, she didn't just need a dad. Maybe I needed a reason to be one. The rain outside shimmered like falling stars, and somewhere deep within, the little girl's words still echoed, "You need a wife, and I need a dad." That night, the cold-hearted CEO finally believed in miracles again.